Hello and welcome to 100% Real with Ruby. Today I have Josh Hillis back, and yes, back. There was an episode probably about 2 years ago when we spoke about nutrition habits, and there was a part in there where we did speak about the fact that sometimes it is helpful to abstain from something before you bring it in with some leaner habits. And I feel like we get so caught up on, there are two parts to this. We get so caught up on the outcomes that we want to achieve and neglect the fact that it doesn't matter about those outcomes if you haven't built them on a sustainable base. Because it's almost like if I click my fingers and you got to where you wanted to get to, you will still fall back to your baseline habits. But if I clicked my fingers and all of a sudden you're cured with a magical Harry Potter potion, and you don't have any more emotional eating issues. You have the most amazing relationship with food. You have lean and strong habits around nutrition, then you will inevitably get to your goals, even though you're not at your goals yet. We just solved all of the issues that stop you from getting to your goals, yet people still don't realize that it doesn't matter what you achieve if this other stuff hasn't been put in place. And I actually think the biggest piece, going off on a tangent, because Josh and I spoke for like ages before this, but going off on a tangent before this, I think the biggest piece to all of this is not having life satisfaction. Because if there's a part of your life that feels unfulfilled, most of us try to control our bodies around that. Most of us try to go to control food around that. So Josh is here to talk about now that as well, which I just thought of. But before I clicked record, I gave him context on the fact that you are where you are now because of everything that happened prior to that. And it's everything that happened prior to that that can be the hindrance to you moving forward. Because we feel like we're going to be in scarcity now. We're never going to have those things again. We're never going to be able to enjoy baking those extremely unhealthy sugar-laden cookies, but oh my God, they look so delicious. But also we forget that in doing the process, like half of the shit that I used to crave before, I know how I feel now when I don't have those things anymore. I know what my indulgence is. And no matter what your indulgence is, there is a post that Josh put up that I want him to, I hope you're making notes, Josh, but there is a post that Josh put up that I feel is the most powerful part, because Josh is a cookie monster. He will always want to eat the third cookie, but he knows that eating the third cookie isn't serving his actual needs. He just had two, and that is enough for him, but you're always going to want more. It's a human thing to always want more. And knowing thyself is also important. Like for me, I prefer not to have the thing than to have one or two and then know that I want to have all of the things, because now my dopamine is on alert and I could have been completely satiated until I let that one thing in. So I think that is a great place to leave this, to let Josh move on, because I'm sure you can relate. You always want to have that one extra thing. You always want to have that thing. I want more. Why can't I have this? Why can't I have that? And living in a food abundant environment where not everyone is online with the health goals that we want, the lean and strong goals that we want. And I'm going to keep saying lean and strong because that's my marketing as well. I say lean and strong because we don't just want to be lean. We want to be lean and strong. And we don't just want to be strong. We want to be leaner than we are now. Lean and strong habits all start right here.
Okay. I did take some notes because there's a lot there. Let's start with the cookie thing, right? Like I always talk about, cookies are my jam. I used to eat cookies by the bag. When I was a kid, I'd walk into 7-Eleven and the guys at 7-Eleven that worked there would shout, Chips Ahoy cookies as I walked in the door, right? Because I bought a bag every other day, and I would eat Chips Ahoy cookies till I kind of felt like hazy and numb, right? So for me, I'm never gonna have 2 or 3 cookies and feel like that was fine, right? I'm always gonna want a dozen. I'm gonna want 2 dozen, right? But the thing is, I want to be someone that has cookies in my life and what fits my values, like the kind of person that I want to be. And this is where I do all of my coaching from, is like the kind of person that you want to be about eating is where we work from. The kind of person that I want to be about eating is someone that can have 2 or 3 cookies and stop. So what that means is that while I'm having those 2 cookies or 3 cookies, one, I need to be present. I need to like be there for eating them. Because back when I was going through a half bag at a time or a bag, like I missed most of it. I wasn't there, right? It just kind of like disappeared into my mouth. So number one, I want to be there. Number two, I want to expect from when I finish that second cookie or that third cookie that I'm going to want a dozen more. Because like, of course I'm going to want a dozen more. They're delicious. And so the game for me is to stop while still wanting more and actually be able to sit with that wanting for 5-10 minutes until that starts to dissipate. And when I say sit with it, I mean accept it. I mean be willing to feel it. I don't mean literally like sit there and dwell on it, because you can like go do other fun. You can like re-engage with your life, right? But there's an element, like if you want to play the game of having a few cookies and stopping, then you're actually playing the game of, one, enjoying it while you're eating it, and two, being able to sit with that wanting without having to do anything about it, without having to fix it. And when you've practiced that, when you've gotten that ability to sit with the wanting without having, then you've got the keys to the kingdom. You can do whatever you want. And so there's a lot deeper we could go just into that, because that's hard to do. But
I want you to, because the neuroscience of this, I don't know whether you're into the neuroscience of this, but I'm pretty sure you are, because this is your specialty. There's the way that neural connections are made. Like if you think about your brain to action, like the brain has this cue and then there's automatic reactions just like this, and they go this fast. If you can slowly go slower and increase that gap between the actions that you're doing, and the more that you increase that gap, this is where it's just like, the more that you focus on rushing the process and not, I feel like that's the biggest thing. People don't recognize this as a win. Just the fact that you pause for even 5 seconds of your life, even if you poured, if it's alcohol, for example, because I'm going to bring in a client example, pouring it out and then pouring another drink. The fact that you poured it out in itself is a win. But how can we use this gap, and where can we start to then direct this? Because if it's emotional eating, if it's something else, then how can we then have, like, I call it a joy list, or the emotional wheel. Like, I want you to dig deep into this, because I feel like this is the most crucial aspect for everyone.
Okay, I love what you said there, because the biggest problem people have is that like immediate, the fast, the mindless, the automatic. And if we can put a gap in there, that's everything. Like I start all of my clients off with pause 10 minutes before snacking, or you could also do pause 10 minutes before getting seconds, or pause 10 minutes before dessert. Literally set a timer for 10 minutes, and just putting in that gap. If all they did was put in that gap, they would be so far ahead. I don't even care like in the beginning, I don't even care if they eat the thing after the 10 minutes, just by virtue of the fact that they started putting in that gap. That's a huge step, because we can start putting in skills into that gap, right? We can start putting in skills for checking in with themselves, checking in with the situation, checking with their values. We can
go into
checking
the
in
skills.
with
Let's go into the skills a little more.
Okay, so so first thing they want to check in with is, am I hungry, right? Number one, do I feel an empty, hollow feeling in my stomach, or do I feel something else, right? Maybe I feel tired, maybe I feel tense, maybe I feel, like maybe hot or cold, or, like, what do you feel in your body? Is it an empty, hollow feeling in your stomach? Because hunger is an empty, hollow feeling in your stomach. Two, am I hungry for like a healthy, balanced meal? Or am I just craving this one particular treat? That's a pretty good indicator that it's not hunger, right? If you're just like, oh, Cheetos, but if you're like, what, actually like a balanced meal sounds good, that's hunger, right? And then the third one is, if I pause, does it increase, or does it decrease, or does it stay the same, right? Hunger typically, like if it's an empty, hollow feeling in your stomach, you're like, I'm not really sure. You wait 10 minutes, you might have more of an empty, hollow feeling in your stomach, right? Cravings can come, they can go, they increase, they can decrease, but they don't like reliably increase over time. Like a lot of my clients have said that about half the time when they do the pause 10 minutes, they actually forget, right? If you forget, it's for sure a craving. Sometimes a craving, we're just like hooked on it, and it can build also, but not always, whereas hunger does. So first, is it hunger? Number two, what's going on, right? Like, let's zoom out. Let's look at the situation. Did your boss just yell at you? Are you stressed out about a deadline? Are you procrastinating some work? Are you exhausted at the end of the day? Right? Like, looking at the situation can give you a big sense of like, oh, it's dinner time. Well, I'm probably hungry. I'm probably hungry for a meal. Or it's the middle of the afternoon. I had a good lunch and I'm tired, right? And I'm stressed out. That's probably not hunger. And the third, you can start checking in with yourself. Like, are there any emotions you can name, right? Like, which a lot of times you might be able to pull from how you're feeling in your body or the situation, or from like a feelings wheel, or Brene Brown has a great feelings list. Like, if it helps to pick from a menu, you can do that. But like, are there any feelings I can put some words around? Can I name what's going on? And then you can get really clear about what's going on. And here's the thing that's really cool. Even in this process of checking in, maybe it takes you 2 minutes to check in with what's going on. That's also 2 minutes that's a 2-minute gap between wanting and having. You've already been practicing sitting with that wanting without doing anything about it for 2 minutes. It's pretty great.
That's a huge win, because now I know I still want you to go down the list, but this is where people actually flip the switch into fucking it all up again, because they start to self-sabotage. They realize, fuck, I'm doing it again. They seek this perfectionism and they beat up on themselves. They get hard on themselves because they want to hurry up and lose the fat, get to these results. Oh my God, I'm doing it again. I'm such a failure. How does that ruin things more?
That is the number one pitfall for all clients ever. Is the which, I mean, you already, that's why you asked, right? Perfectionism is so. I just saw a review on perfectionism and health behavior, and unsurprisingly, the biggest correlation is that perfectionism correlates with quitting a lot, right? Perfectionism is the game of quitting. And so that's not how we typically think about it. But with health behavior, it just means, oh, I messed up, so I quit. I'm going to start again on Monday, or I'm going to start again next month, or I'm going to start again on New Year's, right? So perfectionism is a trap. It's the opposite of what we think it is. I tend to contrast that with the pursuit of excellence, which the pursuit of excellence, the way I defined it, is the process of doing a thing, making a mistake, and then either reflecting on it, learning more, or getting coaching, and then practicing more. And so it's a matter of practicing, making a mistake, learning something, practicing again, making probably a better mistake or a more complex, like a mistake in a more difficult situation, learning, practicing more, but like being really realistic about the fact that you can't learn a hard thing without ever making a mistake. If you're doing something where you never make any mistakes, then you're either like not learning something new, or you're probably actually not pushing yourself enough, right? You can't learn how to play guitar without ever missing some notes, right? If anyone's ever played an instrument, right, like you miss it, like that's part of learning. And then when you get to a point where you're like, oh, I can play that without ever missing any notes, without ever doing anything wrong, what do? You learn a more difficult song, or you practice a more difficult technique, and you mess up with that more difficult technique while you're learning, and then you get better at that. And that's the same thing.
There's actually research that shows that those that make mistakes and learn from them are the ones that do better long term. Like, for example, there were like a few different studies where they learnt material, and instead of studying that material over and over again before doing the final exam, there were different test subjects that learnt the material, and then they got tested on it straight away, and then they got tested again, and then they did the final exam, versus continuing to study.
Yeah.
But it's because they failed on so many of those questions in the test exams that they're like, oh, okay, I screwed up here. I need to learn this piece of material. But it's that screwing up and then reinforcing it in. And if you just even pause the podcast and think about when you did that in your own learning in school, in college, in university, whatever the hell, it's when you got something wrong and then had to try to relearn that and go through the process of relearning that deeper and deeper, that it got ingrained into your memory. And then when you related that into real life, it got ingrained into your memory. Keep going on about this, because I talk about this in terms of mastery.
Yeah. Same thing. And so what we're talking about is called the testing effect, and it's super robustly researched. It's the coolest thing ever. Where with repeated testing, people like it actually encodes the information differently. There's encoding the information recall and encoding it in what they call testing memory, and being able to pull from both has like this dramatic increase on test scores. And I actually took a class that was based on that. My statistics and research methods class, my professor was really into that. And the cool thing about statistics and research methods is that it's math. So she could give us a quiz and we would practice doing statistics, and then she could give us the exact same quiz again, but it would randomize the numbers, and we'd have like all new, like it's the same questions, but like different numbers. We have to do it again. And she actually had us take the test before we'd done any of the studying. So we'd take it and fail. And then we'd study, and then we'd take it, and like I'd still get like a D. And then I'd study a little more, like the parts that I'd missed, and I'd study again, I'd get like a C. I'd study again, I'd get a B. I'd study again, I'd get an A. And I ended up getting like a 97% of the class. Statistics and research methods, not my something that came naturally to me at all. It was like learning a formula. It was so hard, but I took every quiz like 12 times, and it just like hardwired it into my brain. And it was amazing. It was the best thing ever, right? So like we could take each quiz just as many times as it took for us to get an A, and we were encouraged to. And like I said, it randomized the numbers, so it was different every time. It was amazing. It was such an amazing learning experience. So yeah, what we
we can relate that part to the eating part, whereas you are going to be randomized because it's not always going to be that particular emotion or that particular situation in the kitchen. It's going to happen in all these different areas. And if you aren't doing this pause and reflection and actually doing the inner work and digging deeper, it's just the way my brain works. Whenever I read books, I always relate it to client situations. It's like, everything you were saying, I'm like, how can I relate this to eating? This is it. Like, the more that you fail and the more that you can apply this to different things, the more that you have the tools to apply this emotion, like the emotional eating tendencies, because a lot of people, they don't just stress eat in the pantry. How about that kitchen bench that has the cookies on there and the cookie jar, and every single time you pass it, or when someone offers you a cupcake and right now it doesn't serve your values, you know that you're going to have something else afterwards. Like maybe the cupcake can serve you there, maybe it doesn't. But if you haven't yet practiced all of these different skills, how are you going to succeed in all of these different situations? Or once you hit your goals, you were locked in before, you lost the weight, now it's not as urgent. So what's going to happen now? You're going to flip the switch again?
Yeah. So okay, there's so much good stuff in what you just said. Like I want people to think about practicing in stages, right? That if they're even putting in the gap in the beginning, that's enough. Like, and then if they're putting the gap and they eat the thing half the time and half the time they don't, that's fine. That's like an amazingly great stage, right? They're practicing. They're practicing pausing. They're practicing checking in. Doesn't matter if they eat the thing half the time and don't eat that. Like they're like that's an amazingly great stage. And then pretty soon they're practicing and they're eating the thing like 30% of the time, and 70% of the time they're not eating the thing, right? Like that's so different from eating it all the time. That's so different from eating it all the time. And then they get to a point where they're like eating it none of the time. And then they can start playing the game of like, oh wait, when does it fit my values to have it? And then when they're checking in, then like checking in and pausing is no longer just like a hack to not eat it. Then it's like, oh, this is the time for me to legitimately check in and see if it fits my values. And they're like, oh, you know what? Having these chocolate chip cookies that my kids made, Great. You know what? Having this chocolate chip cookie, like at the end of the night because I'm exhausted. No, like they can actually make legitimate decisions. But I want to go back to another thing you're saying. You're talking about like all the different random situations, right? Here's the issue. Here's the thing that sucks about life versus something like working out, right? Like if you're working out, someone might start lifting 10 pounds and then later they lift 15 pounds. And then after a while, they're lifting 20 pounds. And after a while, they're lifting, 25 and 30, right? Stress eating situations don't come at us. Like they come at us randomly. They don't come at us linearly. So sometimes we get hit with a 5-pound stress eating situation. And sometimes we get hit with the 50-pound stress eating situation. And sometimes we get hit with stuff that we haven't developed enough skill yet. It doesn't mean we'll never develop enough skill, because if we keep doing it, we'll keep getting better. But we might get hit with some stuff that's just too much right now. And so that's another reason why the perfectionism thing doesn't make any sense. We're hit with random levels of stress, and we want to like get really good with the easy stress. It's where we can not stress eat in the easy stress eating situations. And that's going to help us work up to not stress eating in the medium stress eating situations. But we still aren't like doing it with when like the super hard, like it's like our skill development is progressive, but what we run into in life is random.
Yeah, I actually want to quickly touch on that cookie part that you said when you're exhausted at night before we go into your next stop point.
Yeah.
There was another post that you put up with the dessert with yourself versus with friends, or a dessert for a different emotional versus it's intentional, it's planned in. Like, for example, I like saying, make sure that all of your meals through the day, you have 4 big balanced meals, and then you can plan in for whatever the hell you want at nighttime, where you have it there as your mindful, soulful indulgence. It's not something that's guilty or it's exhaustion at the end of the day. And this can apply to anyone that struggles with alcohol as well. But I'll let you take over with that one, because I think that's an important point.
So you just hit something so good. A lot of people feel like they struggle. They're like, oh, I can't stop eating at night, or like, oh, I was eating in the afternoon. And then you look at their meals, and their meals are either like way out of balance, or they're way too small, or they're like, they did some stupid diet that convinced them like to have meals that are way too small, or they're just not eating enough. And so snacking is popping up all the time because their meals suck, right? And so whether a meal is like way too small or whether it's way out of balance, like I've had so many clients who are like, oh, I just had a salad for lunch and I don't know why I'm so hungry 3 hours later. I'm like, it was vegetables and like a little bit of fat. Like that's not enough, right? And so we want to handle meals first. I don't know what your perspective on that is, but I point people towards
100%. I'm 100% with you there.
Okay. I point people towards kind of something like the Harvard School of Public Health healthy eating plate, like where it's like quarter of the plate protein, quarter of the plate carbohydrates, quarter of the plate vegetables and fruit, and maybe I don't know, tablespoon of fat, something like that. Not as a rule, but as like something to shoot for-ish, as a place to start. And then people spin off from there. Some people do more protein. Some people do a little more fat, a little less carbs. Some people do a little less carbs, a little more fat. Like I don't care what individually has you feel the most full, but that's like a start, because people are always like, what do I eat? Da, 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 da. I'm like,
protein,
start with that.
Color. That, like, my biggest thing is make sure that I say have half your plate protein, have half your plate color, or a third of your plate protein, 2/3 of your plate color. We always find ways to fit fats into our diet somewhere. Like that's usually the thing that most people are overeating on. It's the other stuff that's lacking. Like, but I can't have carbs here. Well, no wonder you're fucking hungry, mate.
Exactly. Yeah. So like how many people can't stop snacking because they were told they're having no carbs at meals, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, I need something later. You're like, that's not a stress eating issue. That's not a cravings issue. That's just you've got a plate balance issue. And so like handle the plate balance first. Make this easier for yourself, right?
And then that actual discretionary intake, the thing that you enjoy the most, is going to be there with the right reasons. It's not the fact that you're eating it, it's why you're eating it. The why is the most important thing.
Yeah. And that's what, and people think that that's going to be like a hard thing to figure out. And in my experience, it isn't. Clients are actually really easily, like, they can actually take, like, if they pause and they take a step back and they look at the whole situation, they can see like, oh, you know what, this I'm eating because I'm super freaking tired, and and I'm just like exhausted. I had a super rough day, and like my meals were crap, and I'm stressed out about this thing that my spouse said, and like they can see like that is different from, oh, you know what? It would be really cool to sit down with this dessert and have like a mindful, like chill, calm, undistracted experience of eating this, either with friends, with myself, or like that, worlds apart. It's not hard to, like, you could just look at like, how do I feel in my body? If they're like, oh, like my shoulders are up in my ears and I feel super tight, maybe you're stressed out. If you're like, oh, actually I feel like kind of relaxed and calm, and like, that's a great place to eat the thing, or if they check in, they're like, oh, I'm exhausted. Like I feel like just beat to death, right? Like I should actually be asleep right now. You're not, like, maybe that's not it, but the time where you're like, it's actually pretty clear if people step back and look.
And that is exactly why it should be a win. And something that Josh and I were talking about before I clicked record was take things off your plate. And I'm not talking about food. So maybe we can talk about that part as well, because I'll let you take that one off. And I think you can then go into the next point that we were talking about before, because I know that you have a list there. And I wanted you to touch on everything, especially the fact that people can make it harder for themselves by bringing our old habits like food porn online and all this other stuff that makes it even more difficult.
Actually,
take things off your plate. Let's start there. Take things off your plate.
Like life stress?
Yeah. Well, busyness, distractions, the pressure that you put on yourself with all these other things, the fact that we try to control our bodies, or we try to control our food when life is going chaotic, or just like the pressure that we put on ourselves, it tends to lead to the eating becoming more of an issue.
Yeah. So there are two kinds of situations in terms of like literally taking things like managing people's like schedules. Some people are in situations where they really can make their lives a little bit less stressful. I've had clients where after they did the values work, they were like, oh wow, I need to talk to my spouse about like some of the things we buy. I need to talk to my spouse and my kids about maybe helping out with some more stuff. I've had other clients where there was nothing they could take off of their plate like that. They're like, actually, they were in a situation that was kind of rough and there was way too much to do, and they had some commitments that they couldn't get out of at that time, and so those are two situations. And in the one situation, the clients that were able to have conversations and get more help and get some agreement on the game they were playing in terms of eating, wow, that makes things a lot easier. That makes things a lot easier. I had like a couple clients that like changed their life. It like changed a lot of how they relate. I mean, how they related to other people and asking for help and things like that, right? And that all came from them. I try and stick to food. Like that's kind of my that's kind of my zone. But if in the values work, they recognize that like, oh, how I'm showing up here is, and I need to have some conversations. I need to change some things. That's cool. But I'm not pushing that, right? To be clear. Then the other situation, and that makes it so much easier. Then they're playing a much easier game. The other way to go is people that actually can't change any of the things on their plate. Like they've got people to take care of, they've got a work situation that's not going to change anytime soon. In that situation, it's a matter of being really realistic about the timeline, because they're playing on hard mode. And if you're playing on hard mode, it's you can do all the things we're talking about and it takes longer. And I just talked to a client who is in that situation and finally got there. And it took a while. It took like a really long time. But she's at a point now where she can like have she can have dessert in the house and like not eat it after a stressful day. And then when she wants it, she can have a couple and stop. And she can have food that takes she can have meals that take care of her. And when she doesn't have time to cook at home, she can go out to Whole Foods and get it. Right? And there isn't anything in the way of any of these things. She's just like doing all of the things that take care of her. And food is showing up as like one more thing she could do to take care of herself in a situation that's really stressful. And it took longer for her to get there. It took more practice, but she got there. So
you said something powerful. Yeah, two things that you said powerful. Number one was it took a shitload of time, and people don't have patience for that, which is why they keep spinning their wheels. They beat up on themselves when they're not doing perfectly again. And this is where I just like be patient with yourself. This is an investment. It's not you wasting time or wasting money because you keep repeating the same thing. Because there are so many of us that could even have like neurodivergence or any other thing that makes things more difficult for you to put habits into place. But if you keep thinking of that time spent that you still are struggling with the thing and keep repeating the thing as time wasted, you're never going to get there anyway. Whereas if you take this as a learning experience to actually just improve and use mastery or excellence as your way to get better, then you're still edging closer. Like the best question to ask yourself is, what's the alternative? If you weren't working on it, what would you be doing? What's the worst outcome? And the other part that you said there is she turned to food for the comfort to ease all of that stuff. And this is the thing, and this goes back to everything we spoke about before. Like, what is the emotion? Get that. Like, I don't know whether you finished listing off the skills, but I think that's really important for you to bring the skills there as well. And so, listing out the skills there as well as talking to people. Because if your husband keeps doing this for dinner or cooking X for dinner and it's not serving your goals and throwing off your whole day because that dinner meal is enough to blow out your goals. Like, if your dinner is loaded with like fats and fatty meats and porterhouse steak every single night, that isn't serving your goals unless you want to eat like a bird through the day. But eating like a bird through the day is going to have you snacking on the pantry after the porterhouse steak, like the porterhouse steak anyway. So it's a lose-lose situation if you're not having that discussion. And it's not like you can never have that dinner together. It's just picking your indulgences mindfully and how they fit into not the course of a day or a course of a week, but the course of a month. Like, look at your life in months, and it's like, okay, we can have a date night here that fits in with my goals. I'm still tending to my soul. I'm still eating with my husband at night, but now we've had this conversation and this meal serves me a lot more, and he's happy with it as well. Or if your daughter is a baker and she keeps baking you cupcakes, you need to have these conversations. Or if your friend keeps trying to sabotage your goals, you need to have these conversations. So what usually stops people having these conversations, and how can we break this cycle sort of thing to resolve to change?
Yeah. I mean, like where I come from on that kind of thing is it comes down to your values. Like who do you want to be, right? And we're looking at like who do you want to be about eating? And sometimes that like we eat communally, we eat with other people, right? Eating's a shared human experience. And so sometimes that involves conversations with other people. And those conversations also have to be like values based. Like who do you want to be in those conversations, right? Maybe you want to be, like when I talk about values, it might be different from the way that most people talk about values. I'm using them in a very specific way that works, that's derived from like a functional contextualism perspective or contextual behavioral science, where I'm looking at values as like a character strength. And so, which is a different way from how we use the word values colloquially. So like a person might be playing the game of values of like being wise and, let's say they're being wise and connected and playful, right? Let's say that was someone's values, right? I've had people pick that. I know people lean towards like I want to be conscientious and disciplined, and and like you could do that too. But let's just go with wise and connected. So you want to be wise and connected with your food. When you're doing that 10-minute pause before having a snack, you might say like, what action would be towards being wise and connected, and what action would be away? And they might say like, oh, it'd be wise and connected to, it'd be connected to like check in with myself right now and to see how I feel and check in with the situation. It would be wise to, if I'm stressed out, actually maybe go for a walk or something like that. It's, like they can say what the wise thing is. But then when they have that conversation, when they go to have that conversation with their spouse about what they're buying at the market, about what they're making for dinner, or if they can collaborate on things or whatever, they can actually ask them the same things. What would it look like? What would the conversation look like if they were being wise and connected in that conversation? What would a wise conversation look like? What would a connected conversation look like? And that'll probably look different from like blaming or like, and the cool thing about that is, number one, you get to choose your own values. Number two, you get to say what it looks like. You get to say what wise and connected looks like in that situation, right? If those were the values you chose. And so when people have gone that route, that's really the only, I don't coach them on those conversations because that's a little outside of what I do, but I do point them in the direction of like, hey, what are your values in that relationship? And can you come from those values in that conversation? And if things get hairy, can you keep coming back to those values?
Let's do a coaching thing here. So I think I'm going to bring up some that I think would be pretty common. I want to be satisfied with my food choices. I want to be present with my food. I want to be able to enjoy my food, and I want to be intentional. I lack intentionality in my life. I lack mindfulness in my life. I want to know that the food choices that I eat are ones that serve me and make me feel good. The person that, like, the thing that I value is feeling good, feeling content, and intentional.
Okay. So wait. First you said satisfied, present, intentional, and then you said feeling good.
Feeling good and satisfied, and then present and intentional.
Okay. So, and you want me to coach you on these values?
Yes, I'm going to try and think of different things. Let's do this.
Yeah. Okay. So the first thing that we want to, so because it'll be fun, I'm going to be a little bit strict about these values, right? So what we're looking for in these values, what I'm looking for in values, when I'm coaching clients in eating skills, or the way I describe values in Lean and Strong, is I'm looking for something that would cause, like, that if you're making decisions from those values, you would say yes to a certain food sometimes and no to a food other times. That you're looking at it situationally and not in terms of like a specific food. And so one thing I get kind of, I always want to make sure that these values are showing up like character strengths and not like outcomes or standards. And so like satisfied could be a character strength, or it could be like an outcome. When you say satisfied, what do you mean?
Like satisfied with,
I mean, because you said satisfied and feeling good, and
yeah,
feeling good is definitely an outcome.
Satisfied with my choices and satisfied with myself, knowing that I'm serving myself. Is that a value or is that an outcome?
Honestly, I'm not sure.
Let's just say satisfied means being present, because when I'm present, I feel good. When I'm intense, I feel good. When I'm doing these habits, they're not serving me, and then I know that it's not leading to the outcomes that I want.
Yeah, cool. Okay, cool. And the other thing, just for anyone listening at home, for those listening at home, when I said that I wasn't sure if it was a value or not, I actually meant that. I have a lot of clients who might take a thing that might be a little bit on the edge and it really works for them, and other clients where they take a value that might be like kind of on the edge and it doesn't work for them, and I'm willing to experiment and see, right? So I'm just throwing it out there.
That's a big word there, experiment. Like, be willing to experiment, trial and error.
Yeah. So present and intentional. And what's the, like, Is there a problem situation we're applying this to, or is there like is there something that's sticky because you like always eat the thing in the situation, or is there a thing where you're like it's sticky because like I never eat that because like I was told it was bad and I want to be able to have it sometime?
It's an ingrained habit. So the first
Like
one,
what?
so I come home
Yeah.
from work, and as soon as I come home from work and I'm doing something on the computer or I'm doing something else, I then start snacking, and it feels like boredom. It feels like, but all I know is that it's taking me away from my goals and I just can't stop. It's a habit that's ingrained.
Yeah. So snacking is moving away from present and intentional. What might it look like if you're like what would the action that I would see you do be if you were moving towards present and intentional when you got home from work and you're tired?
I would have something that's a healthy meal to tie me through to dinner, and then have something that does hit the feeling of making me feel good at nighttime that I've planned in already. But I always just fall to snacking because there's this space of time, and chips look good.
Okay, so first off, how long of a gap do you have between? So, because what you're talking about is you're coming home and you are hungry, right? You are hungry, but there's a gap until dinner starts. Is that what I'm getting?
I have a big lunch, but there's just
Okay,
this habit of snacking that stops me from just waiting it off until dinner time. Ideally,
okay,
I would want to wait it off until dinner time because I just had a big lunch and I want to be able to enjoy my dessert after dinner.
okay. So if you had to guess, you'd say like you're not actually hungry in that
Not
situation.
not hungry.
Oh, okay, cool. So then, well, I mean, like the skill that most people, or the guideline that most people would put in would be like, well, there are a couple directions we could go. One is we could there are a lot of different. Okay, we could do like the pause 10 minutes before snacking, right? We could say like we could set up like we should expect that when you get home from work, you're going to want to snack because you've always snacked, right?
Yeah.
And so, if we wanted to develop some skills around that, if we wanted to use that as a practice opportunity, we could put it like start with practicing the 10-minute pause, where when you get home, as soon as you want it, you hit a timer, 10-minute pause. And then we could add in another guideline for fun, the 50-50 game, where 50% of the time after 10 minutes you have it, and 50% of the time you don't. The only rule is that it can't be every other day, right? You can't just do like, oh, I didn't have it yesterday, so I'm having it today. After at 10 minutes, you have to actually stop and ask yourself, is today going to be a yes day or a no day, right? And so you're playing a game of like, oh, today will be yes because of this, or today will be no because of that. And it can't be just because of yesterday. You have to actually base it on the situation of the day. And so that could be a place to start. From there, let's say you play the 50-50 game and the pausing game for 2 weeks. Then we start playing the game of maybe we're checking in with what do I feel in my body? Like, do I feel an empty hollow feeling in my stomach? No. What do I feel in my body? Do I feel tired? Do I feel, tight? Do I feel like what's going on in my body? What's going through my mind right now? What thoughts am I having? Are there any emotions I can name? We can start playing that game and maybe even go through a couple cycles of like noticing and naming what's going on, and like what's the situation before making that decision. And then eventually we'll start making that decision with we'll start bringing in values and like kind of make a values-based choice. Obviously, we're not playing the 50-50 game anymore. That's just sort of like that's like training wheels for starting to make situational decisions. And now we're actually making decisions based on your values. That's one route we could go. The other route we could go would be, you know what? You are always tired and stressed out every single time when you get home from work. Let's deliberately put in something that's good for you, some like basic human maintenance for like stressed out humans, whether that's like going for a walk or doing some deep breathing, or maybe you put in a short workout, or maybe do some yoga, or maybe do some reading, or maybe you sit in your backyard, or maybe you stop at a park on the way home for 5 minutes, but like, let's put in something to take care of you because you're a human and you've got a stressful life and you just need something to take care of you. And so that's another route we could go. And then there is a third route, which is we do both.
I actually like that second route a lot. And I feel like a lot of people feel like this is where the take stuff off your plate comes in, where it doesn't have to be something that you dedicate to a 30-minute walk. It can literally just be a 5 to 10-minute walk. But the catch is that you can't just do it for the sake of doing it. This is where I said that I wanted to feel intentional. So I want to intentionally go for a walk. I want to deload my brain. What is going to help me deload my brain? Is it going to be music? Is it going to be a podcast? Is it going to be just going out? Like for me, I prefer to be outside of my house than inside of my house, just because I love nature so much. It just makes me feel good. But then I have stuff I need to do in the house. And this kind of goes into the chocolate chips cookies thing, where having 2 fits your values, having 12 or having 4 doesn't fit your values. It's that same thing. But now let's
can I back up right there, because you did something that I skipped over. You put in something that I missed, which is really, really, really important. It was really, really, really important. Going back to your values of present and intentional, you were saying, of those options, this option feels present and intentional to me. And that's everything. That's everything. So yeah.
I like that a lot. See, this is where knowing how you want to feel at the end comes in. Like, for example, I have my sprints today and I really don't want to leave the house to go to my sprints. But I know that after I finish those sprints, these are different values because I was a different character just then. It makes me feel alive. It makes me feel energized, proud of myself, just full of life. And when I am those things, I serve better, I give better. And those lead to how you mentioned the outcome or the value, that leads to the outcome of me being more satisfied, me being more whatever I said before, like I feel a lot more mindful and present when I do those things. Because when I don't do those things, I feel restless. Like my legs at the moment sometimes go on and off with like doing little wobbly movements because they're restless. It's like I feel more at peace within myself because I just did something that serves my values. And I feel this is where showing up for yourself, knowing that you're doing something that serves who you want to be is enough to lead to X, Y, Z. But if we now take this situation into the workplace, people would usually say they don't have enough discipline, they don't have enough willpower. And this can be that person that always shares that cookie recipe. And there's like this cookie jar and someone has some donuts out.
Actually, wait, can I stop and go back and highlight something you said a minute ago? Because I just love it. You said you don't want to go do the sprints. But at the same time, you know how important it is to who you want to be and also how you feel after. And when people get I think there's a fantasy that people have that the goal is to never want cookies again or to never want to eat in a stressful situation. And the reality is what happens is people get really comfortable with wanting and not having because it serves who they really want to be in the world. And they're not afraid of that wanting showing up. And that's what it actually looks like. You're like, oh, that wanting can show up. That's normal. It's okay. And I also know what you said is how alive you feel afterwards. They're like, I also know how I get to feel when I actually make these choices based on my values, even when I don't want to. And I just want to throw that out there because the wanting doesn't go away, and the difficult emotions don't go away, and the stress doesn't go away, and the urge to numb out stress with food doesn't go away because it works. But you've gotten to a point where you're like, oh, these sprints are important. I like how I feel. I like who I get to be doing them. And it's worth going even though even though my urges are not go. And so I just wanted to highlight that because I think it's really important.
I'm so happy you did, because that's me with cardio. Cardio is the only thing that gives me that feeling of feeling alive, of feeling my heart race. It's why I love, even when I do steady state, I like to finish with a couple of sprints just because that rush that I get, I can't have it. And when
it's
it's like there's nothing else that compares. But you get that same feeling when you actually say the no that you wanted to say. I think tying up with this, I really did want to go back to that willpower thing and the discipline thing, because this is where I feel a lot of people think it's a willpower issue or a discipline issue, or we get down on ourselves for being weak and not wanting it badly enough. And I think that sums up everything we just said. So it's a great place to kind of tie a bow if you want to bring in anything else that you had on your list there, because I feel like it's too important not to.
Yeah, willpower is a funny thing. It's not that it's not useful. Like I think willpower can be really useful. It just doesn't cover over a massive skills gap, which is mostly what I see is like people have a skills gap, and like people that have failed repeatedly, it's because they were given plans that didn't work and they were never taught any skills, and they willpowered for as long as they could, and then they couldn't, but they're basically given a failing plan. And so if we build in skills, then here's the like inflection point, right? It takes some intentionality. I would even say it takes some willpower to practice new skills, right? But the thing about skills is that the more you practice them, the better you get at them, the more like integrated they become in you. Just like learning to drive, right? So intentional when you first start learning to drive, and then now you drive while thinking about other things, and or like playing an instrument. It's so like intentional at first, and then you can play songs just for fun. Eating skills are the same way. It can take a lot of willpower to put them in, and it takes so much willpower to put in a 10-minute pause before having a snack the very first time. It takes so much willpower the very first time. After you've done that 100 times, it mostly doesn't take any willpower at all, because it's just what you do. And so what I want people to get is that like when they're just following diet rules, then a lot of times it feels like it gets harder over time. It gets more tedious, it gets more difficult. When they're learning skills, when they're building actual skills for their lives, even if it takes willpower to implement them the first time, the skills become more and more integrated in their life over time, and it requires less and less willpower. And so that's what I want people to know about willpower. And I think sometimes that gets lost in the discussion of where like willpower is bad. No, I think it actually takes some willpower when you're first putting in a new skill, right? But then it shouldn't forever. Like okay, example. You sprinting, right? I bet it's a lot like you can I bet you are so comfortable now with the not wanting to, that when the not wanting to pops up, you actually like connect that to how you're going to feel afterwards already.
And I never did that before. I never did that before. Exactly.
Yeah. So like it gets like, I would tell everyone listening at home, that you're practicing skills and not following some, like, you're on the right path if it actually gets more integrated and requires less willpower over time.
There's something I heard where the people that you see doing the things that you want to do that make it look so easy, it's not that they have more willpower or more discipline than you, it's just that they have more mind management skills. And I actually think that is the most powerful thing ever, because consistently I'm going through the own self dialogue there. And it's the same when I'm doing my 80-minute run or 60-minute run. It's like, I know that I'm there, I'm getting there, I'm almost at the end. And it's like that negotiation that you have with yourself to go to the end. But until you have experienced how good it feels to feel good, how good it feels to say no over a chain of events, not just that one amazing time that you were able to say no, then you start to do that thing more often. And I was going to actually use squatting as an example. Like, it takes a lot of intention to learn how to squat. And then all of a sudden you're able to actually start adding weights to the squat now, sort of thing. Yeah, that part's really important there. And yeah. Do you have anything else?
Okay. Yeah, something that I just want to throw out there. The other thing, besides the willpower diminishing, it's amazing how much self-trust increases. And it's one of those things where like some people are like, oh, I can't trust myself to not eat the thing in X situation. It's only having been in that difficult situation and practiced the skills and had it go well that you actually learn to, like, trust comes after difficult practice. You can trust yourself to do that like 80-minute run because you've done it when you didn't want to before. And the same way people can trust themselves to stop at 2 cookies because they've stopped before, or people can trust themselves to skip the cupcake that they don't really need that someone offered them because they've done it before. That self-trust that people so desperately want only comes after a lot of difficult practice. And difficult is the key.
I love that so much. Yay!
And that's a great place to.
It is. It really, really is. So with that, thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Thank you so much for coming on, Josh. And like
fun.
I know it was so good. We went down all these rabbit holes. If you want to have a physical handbook of the skills, there's a book called Lean and Strong, and it's by some random guy called Josh Hillis. I don't really know.
I've heard of him. I've heard he's okay.
I know. You probably find his name like in the description of this podcast because he's right here, you know. But yeah, Lean and Strong by Josh. Like handbook, it's a handbook there. I would say you can even like probably get it on a PDF instead. Like get the
if they want the PDF, they have to get it from On Target Publications.
Okay,
so
cool.
if that's what they're looking for, but if they want hardback, Amazon.
Okay, so there we go. So just try and find it that way, because I feel like that way you have a hand pocket guide on your phone if you need to practice those skills elsewhere. Or you
cool.
can just make your own little list from this podcast. But I feel like that could be very beneficial. And Josh puts up really amazing things in his Instagram as well, which you will find at Josh Hillis.
Joshua Hillis.
I thought so. Joshua Hillis. I think you have your
full
name.
Someone got the other one first. So yeah, I had to use my full name, even though it feels very formal to me. Joshua Hillis.
Joshua, you're in trouble now, but yeah, Joshua Hillis. Instagram. And yeah, is there anything else that you want to say?
Yeah, the other place people can find me is I've got a program called Eating Skills.
There we go.
So.
Okay, cool. So Eating Skills, Lean and Strong, and Joshua Hillis.
Thanks so much for having me on. This is great.
When people say your full name, you feel like you're in detention. But yeah,
totally. It feels like I'm like so young when I hear Joshua.
It's so good. Anyway, guys, bye.